Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Progressive World, where we talk about everything and anything related to the progressive world. It's kind of fun episode. Fun series. So don't take everything about it too seriously. If you want some more serious stuff, we have plenty of other stories on our channel. But okay, in this episode of the Progressive World, it's going to be a short one. As always, there's a little bit of Jimmy Dore, TYT, Aaron Maté, but there's also this tweet by the Intercept, which generated quite a bit of backlash by Max Blumenthal and Aaron Maté. So we'll get into that. Mark Blyth had a very interesting conversation with another economist about inflation and Biden spending. So we'll get to that for sure. And as always, there are timestamps below. But let's start with the fun stuff, the Jimmy Dore versus Aaron Maté versus TYT. So I think we've already made like 3 videos that I've called like last round, last one. We're not going to talk about this again, but hey, it continues. So let's have some more fun. So this time when Aaron Maté went on Jimmy Dore, there are just 2 things that caught my attention. I thought we could talk about, and really how overall this thing you could say has
But
been a. Go ahead.
wait, wait, let's
Yeah,
give a bit of a context.
please.
And the context being that Cenk went on the hill and specifically called Jimmy Dore, saying that he's a liar, and specifically said that I have never said we should bomb Syria.
Yeah.
And then go ahead. Sorry.
Beautiful. No, thank you for giving that background. Actually, I forgot about that. My points don't really focus on that exactly, but I think when we make the conversation a bit bigger, then we'll come back to that. So 2 things caught my attention that made me really think it's a blessing in disguise for Aaron Maté. One, Aaron mentioned himself. He said, at least out of this whole thing, one thing that come out of this is that now we're talking about Syria a lot more, which I agree. But unfortunately, I would just add that the conversation has been so restricted to this one incident that happened like 6 years into the war, rather than having a more general conversation or about different aspects of the Syria conflict. Unfortunately, hasn't been extended that far, but at least he is right that there's been some discussions about Syria more than there would have usually been if there wasn't this ridiculous beef that for some reason Cenk doesn't want to stop, even though he's the only, he just like it gets worse and worse for him. So maybe we'll get into that. But the second part of the blessing in disguise I wanted to get into before we expand this conversation a little bit is Aaron Maté just personally, like his gains in terms of subscribers and stuff. So I didn't look at the numbers for the gray zone because kudos to them. They didn't bring any of this bullshit onto their channel. They just go on Jimmy Dore's channel and just take it out all on there and just leave the serious stuff on them. So I'm not sure if they experienced a big boost, but Aaron Mack's Twitter account gained like over 10,000 followers in a month, which is like just almost a little bit less than 10% of what he had. So he had a very nice gain in number of followers. And here you can see, so the numbers I put are from Social Blade for the past month. So you can see every day he kind of gained like, some days he gained like a few hundred or even like 500 or more, really at the height of, you can say, his beef with TYT and Cenk. And what's funny though is when you compare it to Cenk at the same time, although he has a much bigger Twitter account, he has around 500,000 people, so triple Aaron Maté. He was just losing. His like net, I guess, gain and loss were just all in losses. He was losing like 100, 200 there until the last few days where he seems to have rebounded. But what kind of caught my attention here, and I would like other people who know Social Blade more to let me know if I'm mistaken here, but on the right side of it, it talks about the number of tweets that a person posts per day. And Cenk appears that despite, I'm guessing, he did tweet on the day of, what is it, the 19th of June. I'm sure he did tweet, and maybe even counts retweets, but he has minus 35 tweets. So what I understand here, and people please correct me, is that Cenk deleted dozens and dozens of tweets on that day, and like 2 days later he still, like the net part of it, he deleted 3 tweets. So I wonder if people please let me know if my understanding here is correct or not. But yeah, Sam, this was just my little investigative journalism. You see that I'm doing here. I'm turning into a little mini Aaron Maté. But no, all jokes aside, any comments here? And do you want to talk about a little bit more generally at how, pretty much
Sure.
TYT is just throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks, while Aaron and Jimmy Dore are really like aiming before they shoot, and you can see the difference.
I mean, look, besides all of that, I really looked into the thing. I said in a previous video, we're going to do a video about the claims made by the guy, Patrick Hillsman, the guy TYT brought, the journalist. But then Aaron Maté went on Jimmy Dore and debunked him. And then I kind of looked into the thing, and he doesn't seem to really have any evidence. His whole thing is just he agrees with the report. And
so you're talking about the Jonathan guy now.
Jonathan?
Sorry, Patrick, my bad. I was just making sure that you weren't talking about Aaron.
Mr. Hills.
Oh, you're talking about him right now. Sorry.
Yeah, so he disagrees with the experts that are the leakers. It's just the whole disagreements with Aaron Maté from the other side. I mean, this is the best potential possible explanation, by the way. I mean, if they're not being bad faith actors, if we assume they are being genuine, is that they don't see the leakers. They see the leakers as disgruntled, I guess, former employees or something. Otherwise, there is nothing like there is no pretty much everything else, it seems, including technical evidence, support Aaron Maté's and the leakers' version of events. So I just don't understand why. And Cenk Uygur, I think, sadly, he's, as you say, for no reason continues this idiotic thing. You also had, again, somebody who, as I mentioned before, I really liked before, but now I'm really rethinking that, especially when we get to the later story that it may explain it more. But Ryan Grim also got into a Twitter feud with Aaron Maté, in which he discusses on Jimmy Dore, in which he if you try to put the best possible, give him the best possible intentions, maybe you can say he's trying to balance this thing that he's trying to explain that foreign press does not necessarily follow up the stories over there. But it's just, why do you what's the point of getting even involved? It seems like you're clearly for no reason trying to defend an idiot or somebody who's wrong. Maybe idiot is harsh, but so it's very disappointing. So I just wanted to make it clear on the substance of the thing, on the leaks and all that, and on the chemical attack. Yeah, it seems that everything that Aaron, it's just, that's why we didn't do a video. Just, it seems so obvious, just 2-second Google search. And the Hillsman guy, I took a look at his articles, and his articles is largely this bullshit about, America has problems with these dictators in Russia and in other places are so bad, and how all these dictators loved Trump. And there's a picture that I hope, I don't know if it's, there's a picture of him, and I don't know if it's his girlfriend or his partner or what, that they say a very a message to Mr. Putin, and then they show finger to the camera. And I'm sure Putin was just destroyed.
This guy. He's so brave.
Yes, they are so brave. Putin was just crying for 3 days, running around Moscow. They sent me a finger, but and they have there is another one with a flag of America in which down with the traitors. That's the caption.
Christ, man.
So I mean, I'm not, again. Look. And the guy hasn't written anything on this subject, so that's another thing. Yeah. So, but I don't want to say I want to judge the person based on 2 pictures. But I did read 2 of his other articles about Russia and stuff, and very bland, very again, maybe, and he tweets stuff that are supposedly evidence of his arguments, but they're just the reports that, not the original report, the final report. So I don't. Anyways, it seems like it seems kind of much ado about nothing, but in a very negative way, because it's just some people that you had respect for are just
I can't believe Ryan Grimm is doing this, because he's also kind of falling into a trap. The trap being that Aaron Maté is an expert on this topic that he has been working on for years. What, you think you're gonna like suddenly come up with like something and you're gonna get him? You know what I mean? Like, oh, Aaron, you didn't think about this, and I've thought about this subject for half an hour. You're not. You're gonna keep on getting schooled, most likely.
I felt, I mean, again, I'm just reading the best potential intention in the case of Ryan Grimm, because I really like him, to be honest. I think maybe he was just trying to defend the journal, like, because like journalists at large that, you know, or like explain that foreign press usually like report on a foreign incident and they never follow up.
Well, I don't get that. I don't get that.
Through the years.
Sorry, can you explain that again? I don't. What form?
Like, for example, there's a bombing in Syria, and then they report there was bombing in Syria, and everybody says it was the Assad regime. 2-3 years later, it turns out that it wasn't the Assad regime. It's just they're not interested, because it's not, you know, people don't, especially foreign news, they're not that. Like the Vietnam War, I think, has started on a false flag attack. But by the time it turned out it was false flag, the war, or you know what I mean.
And so, like, what's his point about that?
Cares?
Is that
that's why it's not getting coverage. It's not like, it's not a conspiracy. It's not because it's not because it goes against the U.S. narrative. Guys, by the way, I'm gonna get attacked in the comments.
No, I don't think
people are gonna say you're defending. I'm not defending. I'm saying this may be his thing. This maybe that's the best possible take I could have. That he's saying that this is not because it goes against the Washington narrative. It's not intentional evil. It's just they're just being not following up, because that's not how they do things. But that's not an excuse, first of all, to make my position clear. And because I got attacked for defending Anna, you know, but it's not an excuse. And why comment? Okay, so all right, thank you for this, but that's not the main issue being discussed here. So okay, whatever. But on the issue of the leaks, though, that's interesting. Like, if we want to get, I haven't had time to look into the specific, like, detailed history of individual leakers, but it seems the leakers seem to be actually a stand-up guys and all that. And the former head of OPW, I forget the acronym. He support. So it's just, it's clear which side is clearly. There's a lot of more evidence on one side's argument. Anyway.
Yeah. No, 100%. And
so sorry, I meant just again, I'm not defending anyone. Just trying to put the best, because to be honest, I do think the numbers you showed, for example, is an indication. There are loads of other metrics and measurements that have to be looked at. That Cenk is losing certain number of audience members, Cenk Uygur. And it's not, and even though I'm sure he's getting money from Katzenberg or whoever, it's not in his benefit. He could have just left this topic alone and nothing would have happened. So I don't understand why I think it's more out of a stupidity than like being paid to do something just because of that.
No, this part I think is coming from inside of him. I think now it's just like, you know, he's in a big battle with Jimmy Dore. I mean, this has to be eating him up inside. I have no doubt. You can't be in a big feud
friends.
Like this.
They were friends. But no, I'm just saying that people who say that they're paid and stuff, at this point, even if you're paid, it seems like a very, like, if I were them, it doesn't seem to benefit them.
No, right
like
now,
their Twitter feed is just
I think by
insults.
Now it's purely internalized. I mean, this whole thing, even if he's being paid, they could stop paying him. He's not going to stop. And I mean, it's just like the guy has nothing to stand on. Like he comes out and says, Jimmy Dore is a liar without showing any evidence. And then Jimmy Dore sits there with Aaron Maté and his little video, and he shows like, what Cenk was saying about Syria and Libya. And that was amazing.
No, and by the way, another show that the deep dive with, I forget his name, but he does great YouTube. He's a great YouTuber. He resurfaced another video apparently in which Jimmy and Cenk are debating Syrian bombings.
Yeah.
So I don't.
There's probably so much out there on him. There's so much, and then.
But by the way, I would say I'm not that surprised though, because even though Cenk is on the America's left, like in terms of internal policy, he was always very nationalistic and patriotic about America. So I'm not that surprised. And of course,
he was a full-out right-winger before that, like to the right of the right of the right, it seems.
Oh, yeah, when he was very young.
I would say that's when he was a kid. Until his mid-20s, I'm guessing mid-20s, 30s, not that young.
Well, that's a kid, isn't it? I don't know.
It's like pretty much our age, like a few years younger, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm a kid. Definitely don't listen to me.
But I'm just saying, but the funniest thing though about the Jimmy Dore, just to add a little fun point about this before we move on, is when he showed the video of Cenk and Cenk going, down goes Gaddafi, and it just reminded me of how that was his shtick for so long during the Trump administration too. He used to love doing that. Down goes blah blah blah. Down goes
Yeah, I would say that made me a bit sad because even though with Iraq war, like I guessed, everybody in Middle East knew it was about oil and all that. Nobody was buying it. I don't know who bought the WMD story, but the Libyan war, I kind of, because I was like I was adult then, not fully, but like 20 something. But that one, I remember the speech he gave, and then they translated it, and later on it turned out the translation wasn't quite exact, that we're going to come and kill everybody in the city. And I kind of fell for that too, for that media stuff. So it reminded me of a time when, it was just like, it was very, well, both in a way. I love how, by the way, Jimmy has all this evidence. At the same time, it reminded me of the time I was less that was disappointing.
Well, I guess you've learned from your mistakes, and you were far younger and you weren't running a channel like that. And I mean, just like the joy in Cenk's face. I mean, Jimmy Dore is so right, when like Gaddafi's killed like that. And the thing is, you could hear Hillary Clinton like coming out of his mouth, because Hillary Clinton also famously, after they killed Gaddafi, she said that we came and we saw and we conquered. So it was just like very...
we saw, we killed. Or something
like that.
And then she laughs, I think. But to be fair, I would say... That. Yeah, and again, I would give more Hillary, to be honest, more leeway. Because I think if you're a politician, you're in that game. I put politician and warlords. Genuinely, I mean that, in the same level of like morality.
Warlords.
Yeah, that's the game they play. Yeah. Like news reporting is not, like that level of like, you're not like Gaddafi would have probably gotten Hillary killed if he could have as well. Like their game is different game, but but this is like, anyways.
But what coming out of his mouth like sounds so much like her. But
again, I'm not defending Hillary, by the way.
No. But okay, let's move on to our next story, which is Eric Weinstein. He was on the Realignment. So I know that neither is Saiger a progressive, or Eric Weinstein, I guess, he's not a progressive, although this is the first time I met him. But I guess Saiger is related. Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
He considers himself center left.
Okay, there you go. So even more justification to have him in the Progressive World episode. But yeah, Sam, it was my first time listening to him. So I just wanted to see what you make of him. I found it extremely entertaining as soon as the podcast finished and I was out doing stuff. So I just listened to it again. But then I started to think like, okay, what is this guy saying? I mean, I've been having fun for an hour and a half listening to him, except extreme entertaining comments, insane analogies, and being super opinionated about everything in like a very determined way. I was like, what am I getting out of this guy? I started thinking. So I have a fun clip that I'm going to show right now, which just kind of shows things that he said that kind of, always make me suspicious about people. So I don't know if you have anything you want to say before we play this clip.
No, about him or about people?
About Eric Weinstein.
Oh.
Where did you get people from?
You said it makes me suspicious about people.
Oh, okay, yeah, and people like Eric Weinstein, who talk like him. They kind of fall into people who are full of analogies and all. So pretty much this clip that we just watched right now.
I'm old. I remember when I felt things directly. I remember when things meant something, and we're having a crisis of feeling and meaning. And I don't think people really understand it, but this phone thing that we carry around is clearly reprogramming us so that we can't feel. We are insensitive. I have this, I've told the story a few other places, but I have this recurring nightmare of a father taking a picture of his child on a bridge and saying, back up, back up. And the kid backs up right to the rail and says, back up. And the kid goes right over the side. And the father rushes to the rail and sees the child, falling in the canyon and said, oh my God, I'm getting all of this. Remember to wave. And it's just this idea of,
he says that, phones have disconnected us from the world, like as if, there was this beautiful world before where everything was working out, and now these phones have just made us. And then the evidence, yeah, I've already played the video. Don't worry, I've already played it. And then the evidence, or like the second point he makes is about this recurring nightmare that he has. Okay, I'm sorry if you have this nightmare, but I don't see how this adds anything. And then my favorite part is Sagar is like agreeing with him in a way as if like he's like talking about like statistics and like a real story that's happened, not his nightmare. So just things like this make me extremely suspicious about people. I'm like, there's too much, there's too much. And then he goes on about this analogy of how religion is like the edge of a sweater, because the edge of the sweater is different than the rest of the sweater and it helps it stick together and all this. And then I was like, what is this guy's overall point of view? Go ahead.
That part had a bit more like structure to it. I would give a bit of background. Eric and Bret Weinstein, they're brothers. His brother was at the university and he wrote a letter objecting to a day that they said white people shouldn't come for Black solidarity and stuff. And then the students tried to attack him pretty much, and they tried to deplatform him. And in that issue specifically, I really sided with them. And if you watch the videos on YouTube and stuff, and I think those students are disgusting and the example of everything I hate, pretty much. Anyway, but that's I think how they became famous. But Eric Weinstein himself, I think, is in finance. He works with big financiers. If I'm not mistaken, he works with Peter Thiel.
Yep.
I had seen him on Joe Rogan before, and it's really weird because sometimes I really agree with him, but sometimes, especially when he talks about his experience in academia and his brother's experience in academia, especially his experience in academia, it does come across as a bit bitter in my view. I never really fully looked into the details of the thing, so maybe he's completely justified in that. But I would suggest, if you like that, definitely watch his interviews with Joe Rogan. And in this interview, first of all, I mean, this is a problem. Sorry about if I touch my mic or something. This is a problem you have with a lot of people, so I don't want to just focus on Eric Weinstein. But I think analogies are perfect for explaining stuff when you want to explain how a mechanism works. But you have to be very clear that it's an explanation for how a mechanism works, rather than he focuses on too many analogies. And like, for example, what he was saying, you said about the what was it, cardigan?
The sweater.
The jacket. The sweater. Yeah. So he was saying that, we should have certain limits. There should be a framework to discussions. So then discussions can continue in a constructive manner. Because he's against moral relativism and scientific relativism that would always goes like, oh, but then again, I think he's just oversimplifying relativism, and obviously everybody agrees there should be even like everybody agrees on basis like science, very basic tenets of science. It's just how you interpret those scientific data and all those. So I think it's just, yeah, it's, I don't know, it felt very anecdotal based, even though loads of places I agreed with him. For example, he talks about uh, education cost and how that is turning young people into forcing them into doing things they don't want to do. He puts it in a very colorful language, as if on purpose to get a reaction, talking about you're turning your daughters into prostitutes. But I think he has a reasonable point that the education costs are too high. But I don't, yeah, the anecdotal evidence, and as you say, the nightmare and the phone thing, because I rely on my phone a lot, by the way. The phone thing is genuinely, I think that's just all, sorry, but no disrespect, but that I do think is a bit of a boomer. Like when print came about in Germany, the ability to print paper, and they said it's the work of the devil, and the family union is gonna, the society is a structure. We had the same thing with movies and television, and then uncensored television, cable television. It's just internet. Every time we have this moral panic about this. So it's designed to make us not feel. Exactly. What the hell? I mean, like how are you basing this type, like based on what science? It's designed to. By the way, about even the people who focus on, oh, you don't know the algorithm behind YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that. What's his name? Joe Rogan did it. I watched a bit from Joe Rogan. I don't know. It was new, it was old, or what. He says that his friend did an experiment where for 1 month he went and just watched puppies on YouTube, like being like nice to each other, and then YouTubers, obviously started recommending that. So this idea that there's this evil algorithm that is forcing feuds.
Sorry, and you made like so many great points here that I wrote down, like most that I agree. So I wanted to like just get to them one by one. But like the phone thing, like, I don't deny that, obviously like anything else, it's had an impact. But this kind of black and white that, it's kind of went from this beautiful world to now this disconnected where we can't feel one another. And it also is based on generalized.
Does he say beautiful?
He doesn't say beautiful, but he says we don't feel anymore. I said beautiful, like, because it sounds like went from a perfect world, the way this clip, to this.
He doesn't say the previous word was perfect, but he does imply it.
This has disconnected us, and there's a crisis of feeling and all this. So I mean, just like such a big picture.
Way,
but then, I just want to add a few more things. But go ahead if it's just about this.
Sorry, just to give him the benefit of the doubt, for different generations, and I'm sure this will happen to us, maybe future generations will be like, maybe each generation is less, let's say, connected, or less, at least physically in touch and all. So it's generational, but it doesn't mean it's bad or stuff. So it felt just not based on science and more just a personal nag. Sorry to cut you off.
No worries. And his nightmare, I guess. But yeah, I don't want to also deny that phone has a lot of negative impacts. I'm sure it has a lot, including some of the social media algorithms and stuff. Just this overall kind of picture, like this generalizing everything. And then, you said analogies.
Yeah, Daily Mail.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And then you talked about analogies, for instance, how they can be good and stuff. I really like hearing a good analogy here and there. But when every point is, supported by analogy, that's when I said I get suspicious. And I find like a lot of politicians do this. So this is what I was referring to when I say about people. And did I have one more thing? But yeah, I think those were kind of main things. And then I wanted to talk about his theory of everything just to wrap it up. But yeah, go ahead. Was there something else?
Yeah, I just for the algorithm thing, what I mean is, look, Daily Mail causes a lot of hatred and causes a lot of, in my view, bad things to go on in the UK, right? Because because they figured out the algorithm that racism and sexism and blaming immigrants kind of works, right? That's their algorithm. Facebook is just digital news outlet, and it can personalize that for you. So if you're into race, so they back in the days you had to have Daily Mail and a different newspaper to target to different groups. Now one organization can do that within it. It can sieve towards you, like you like Daily Mail stuff, that stuff. You like New Statesman stuff, New Statesman stuff. So that's all it is. They're trying to get their audience's attention on. So this, like, that's like the way they cover it in some progressive war channels, that it's as if this sort of addiction thingy that, you know, it's not fucking heroin. By the way, I'm not, people can be addicted to internet, to YouTube, to porn, to blah, but it's a psychological thing. It's different from a real addiction like heroin. It's not to minimize it, but it's very different.
100%. You said the right word, not to minimize it, but it's just the fact that exactly when they turn it into this insanely generalized monster, you have no other choice. It's just like the documentary right now on Netflix came out a few months ago about social media and stuff. I mean, you would think, like, I was scared in my house. I was like, okay, somebody, the algorithm gonna come and knock on the door. Exactly. I mean, they just overblow it.
So the Matrix is real.
Yeah, they just overblow it in a way. But then, yeah, so I decided to go learn about his theory of everything, apparently, just a little bit. That's his biggest thing. So apparently in 2013, he made a big splash, told people, gave a lecture that how he has a theory of everything. Articles were written about it, one in The Guardian saying, like, forget about Einstein, it's time for Weinstein, and things like this. And pretty much 7 years later, in 2020, he finally comes up with a book. Apparently, he didn't even want to get it peer reviewed, but I'm not too sure about that part because exactly, he says, I don't trust the peer review system and all that. Obviously, it's been criticized so much because they're like, we waited 8 years or 7 years for your thing here. And they say that there's nothing to it. There's evidence missing and all this. And on top of that, apparently the book ends with this disclaimer, or the paper, sorry. The paper, the disclaimer ends, is merely a work of entertainment. So at the end, he just puts that on his theory of everything. And apparently he hasn't received any of the publicity. Like, apparently he made a really big splash. And of course, he went on Joe Rogan's show to tell everybody what his theory of everything is. And apparently, like, he couldn't even, I didn't watch the video, but even Joe was a bit confused.
But do you know, what is it?
Apparently he's like putting all he's like found a way that you can just put everything that you know in physics or equations all under this one banner, that everything falls under there, and that's why it's a theory of everything. And yeah, I don't know anything about it. but something like that. Okay.
But yeah, I think that's the stuff I watched probably, that on Joe Rogan he was talking about, because he was on about, but anyways, I don't know about that. Maybe his theory of everything,
but apparently hasn't received any of the attention that he was hoping. But yeah, let's wrap it up on him. And like you said, he says so many things, that a bunch of things I agree with, like the fact he was telling Sagra and stuff how important it is to wear at least a jacket when you're making news and stuff, which I 100% agree with him there. Even though I'm not doing it.
Good looks. No, I would say sometimes though, it was just so annoying. I must not this, like, just in general, I hate this when people do that. I do that sometimes. I do that sometimes. I just remember doing it. But you know, when people are like saying that, okay, what was it? One of the, not Sagar, the other host was saying that.
I don't know his name.
Yeah. This, I forget the exact word, but let's say this we need legitimize. He said legitimize.
Mm-hmm.
And then another person goes, I do that a lot too as well. That no, what do you mean? No, you didn't need to legitimize. What do you mean by legit? And then instead of actually discussing the issue, there is this whole side 5-minute debate about what the word actually means and what word should be. So this semantic argument, and everybody knows what he meant, even the person who's correcting that person. But I do that. I keep remembering times I've done that. Yeah. Shit, I need to stop doing that. It's annoying. But yeah.
You mean is an example of that when someone says like, oh, he's being racist or something, and you're like, no, this person can't be racist because it's not a race thing, but you know what the person is talking about, referring to.
Although, I do that with racism is a dangerous.
Okay, let's not open that. Okay, let's forget about that.
No. I would just like bigoted, and racism can be and it's different when you're writing academic article and when you're just
100%,
talking.
100%, of course. No, 100%. But yeah, let's move on. I love how when I pitch you the stories about like Eric Weinstein or TYT, you're not interested, but then you won't stop talking and you won't let me get through my points. So I'm glad halfway through you start enjoying these episodes.
No, it's a guilty pleasure, I must say.
Okay.
Every view we get, I lose a feather from my hand.
Some of your dignity. But okay, quick story I got here. Again, I listened to another conversation by Mark Blyth, who's a political economist, this time with John Friedman. So they had a conversation on the Watson Institute for International Public Affairs YouTube channel. And again, they talked about inflation and Biden spending. So the overall thing that I kind of got from it, and of course, these are two professors speaking, so please go and listen to it. But the interesting points that they were making is that, if I understood them correctly, is when you juxtapose the response now to the 2008 crisis, there's been a big shift. Now there isn't so much that scare of going in debt. That's gone away. Of course, talks about austerity completely out of the window. And now, there's Biden wants to have his infrastructure plan and all that and to spend. And of course, the counter that's come out now is inflation. So again, they talk a lot about inflation and really understanding inflation and how you can't point at one product or one industry and be like, oh, this one, the prices have gone up, so it's inflation. No, it has to be general across everything for it to be actual inflation. And they say that, there shouldn't be inflation. There shouldn't be fear for inflation based on the spending that's going to happen. That's kind of the overall gist of it, of what they talk about. But yeah, if you really want to listen to the recovery of the economy, they say some very interesting stuff about the economy, how most of the people who had like office jobs and all that, they had recovered already by June and July fully. In the US economy was back for them. Some low-wage workers had also recovered, but those who didn't recover by June and July, then they're the ones who've kind of been in limbo ever since. So June, July 2020, really. So really interesting stuff about inflation, the fear of spending not being there anymore that much. But now, of course, critics are talking about inflation and how to understand inflation. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add there, Sam. If not, we can move on to the Intercept and Max Blumenthal and all that.
No, but I haven't seen the video.
So yeah, no, definitely go watch it. It's really, really interesting. I mean, I love political economics, political econ, even though I don't understand much most of the time. But okay, Sam, tell us a little bit about this Intercept tweet backlash that I think, did it happen on Friday or Saturday, the backlash? It's kind of recent, no?
Yeah, it's very recent, I think, because to be honest, I haven't even heard the podcast, so I do completely.
So yeah, tell us about it. What's the podcast and stuff?
So Intercept tweeted, that's the story. The Intercept tweeted Chelsea Manning, the whistleblower, joins Ryan Grimm and Ken Klippenstein, sorry if I mispronounced that name, on Deconstructed to talk about prison prospects for whistleblowers in Biden era and what she's been up to since her release. Then they put a picture, which I assume we put in this video, in which they put Chelsea Manning in quotation marks. if Ken were around in 2010, he would have been the recipient. Let's just put it that way. I would assume, I haven't heard the podcast, but from all the responses, I would assume she's saying the recipient of my information, my leaks, right? So that's what I assume. And that's people who seem to have listened and responded. So you had very, first of all, personally, my own take. I read that, and Ken Klippenstein, I kind of
Who
like
is Ken?
all.
Sorry, who is Ken though?
He used to go on Rising a lot. He works for
Okay.
Intercept.
Ken.
I used to enjoy his reporting a lot, but then I think one time he said that Russia Gate was not that important a story, or like because he was one of the people who fell for it anyway.
Oh.
And then suddenly it wasn't that. But anyways,
so he's right.
I don't remember that specifically. So so maybe I'm wrong there. But but generally speaking, I really like his reporting, and he seems like a good reporter and all that. But for Chelsea Manning to say this, although Chelsea Manning apparently refused to testify against Julian Assange, so that's nice. But Julian Assange has gone to jail for basically the leaks that she provided, and WikiLeaks has never revealed any of their whistleblowers' name, or gave them up, or mishandled them in a bad manner, which Intercept has. I'll just refer you this because this put it in the shortest possible way, my views as well. But Max Blumenthal replied, "No disrespect to Ken, but this is an insult to WikiLeaks and Assange, who is jailed, as most legal scholars would agree, illegally, and probably if he doesn't he's not gonna, the court ruling and all that is finished. But if he did end up being prosecuted, it would have been the precedent to basically end free journalism in the US. The Intercept only released 3% of the Snowden leaks, then buried the archive. I don't know exactly about if that's true or not, but I would love if Glenn Greenwald would have commented on that, because he was involved in that. The Intercept got Reality Winner jailed. Reality Winner was somebody who leaked something during Trump era. I forget. It wasn't even that important. And Glenn Greenwald does a really good breakdown of the events that took place. I believe him. And apparently, the Intercept was very uncareful, and they really fucked up there. But she would have been caught anyway, because she was being very amateurish at any rate. So that. Then Max Blumenthal goes on to say, and I've seen the tweets, but the Intercept paid Bellingcat, which smears OPCW whistleblowers. Bellingcat is a CIA funded, they get funding from National Endowment. They're basically funded by US government. And there is a tweet by the head of Bellingcat that says we get more money from Intercept than US government, because they did workshops for them or something. The Intercept staff ignores and undermines OPCW whistleblowers. The last one, you could say, I guess, well, they don't trust them, they don't believe them or whatever. But the other points are all, very, just it was really annoying. And then I wanted to get to a bit of a controversial point, which you might disagree with.
But before you get into that, I mean, it is just so hard to hear that from Chelsea Manning saying that. So I would really like to listen to the whole context of the podcast, because, she has been through hell herself. I mean, she was held captive forever, and they showed that in the courts how she was kept in the situation. So then coming out and saying this, I mean, I wonder, does she go on to justify things about Julian Assange or something? I mean, why would anyway, now please
we listen to the thing for sure, but no, I would say though, I was not that surprised, and maybe it's out of jealousy or something, but I always both Edward Snowden which is not the topic here, and Chelsea Manning. But more Chelsea Manning, who gives a shit like what they think first about these? They were very naive young people, very naive young people, because most young people I know are at age 17 or even younger, like 14, are not naive enough to think like American military is good, or like spies are doing. Like, you have to be, in my view, you have to be very naive to think like that beyond the age of 15. Uh, they went into work for some of the most evil organizations. And then at some point, because of their naivety, they were shocked, and then they, leaked certain information. But they're not socio-political analysts. They're not particularly they're not philosophers. Not that I don't even like philosophers that much either, but my point being that we shouldn't expect, for example, they are always asked about I'm focusing on the Edward Snowden because I don't want to seem like I'm attacking one person because they did something, but like they're asked about the geopolitical future of America in their opinion, and you're like, who cares? Like, they just had access to some files of some awful information, and thankfully they were naive enough to be shocked by it and to reveal it and to have conscious, which most people don't have. I respect that they have conscious, but conscious is different from analytical skills and all that. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's just that, yeah.
I mean, I would add
while I
two
respect
things.
their actions, I don't care about their opinion sometimes.
I don't know what kind of 14 or 15-year-old you're hanging out with, but most are extremely naive in that way, as opposed to what you say, for one reason, because they're typically apolitical. So personally, I was apolitical fully until the ages of 20 and 21. And I also believe so. I wasn't American, and I wasn't hit with the propaganda in the same way. I'm wanting to go save my country, but I believe the overall US narrative about everything and anything, really. So I think your image of 14 or 15-year-olds, you might be disappointed when you meet some
No,
more.
I was an idiot. I was an idiot when I was a 14, 15-year-old. But I wasn't that, like, I knew Santa Claus wasn't real.
Okay, but Santa Claus, that's a
bit
different
than
believing that the US is exceptional and that the US is out there like saving people's lives and stuff.
I don't know.
People fall for that equally. A bit more than the Santa Claus one at a certain age. But just the other point too, though. Just your other point. Why do they go back and ask them, what's your opinion on this and that? I guess one is because they've become famous now, so you want to hear what they have to say. But on Edward Snowden, I mean, he was like some kind of intelligence analyst. So let's say that now he isn't that naive. He definitely has some analytical skills, and he could light on some issues. Not that everything that comes out of his mouth is gold. That's not what I'm saying.
I really like him, by the way, and I agree with most of his stuff. It's just that I didn't want to seem like I'm focusing on a single individual. Yeah. I just meant that people who are not experts can leak his stuff and then not necessarily have views we love, or like for example, you would have leakers that there are all these Christian fundamentalists who are anti-violent, and they would be so. That's all. But in terms of, I don't know though, I disagree with you on the terms of if you're like 18 and you join military, or if 16 you join military, or you join a spy agency or something, that's on you. Like, I'm sorry, but like, if you you haven't seen any cartoon in your life?
No, I mean, they're hard to understand, those cartoons, if you don't know what's going on.
Any book.
I mean, I'm just telling you that I personally, if I was American and I guess there was like this joining the military kind of mentality surrounding me as well, I would have been as naive. And to their defense, they kind of, they're not the kind of people who are at least, at the age of 65, they suddenly realized. I think they both realized very early into their 20s.
Sure. And I don't know their family I don't know their family background. Maybe they come from military families or something. But from Edward Snowden, though, from what I remember, I heard in an interview he was one of those people who, when 9/11 happened, they went to sign up to
Yeah.
protect the country. Or so, that type of naive thinking. And by the way, this type of naive thinking is great for, like, if you don't have that sort of idealism, you wouldn't be a type of person who risks your life to leak his stuff. But it's, yeah, again, not my cup of tea. But you're right. You're right. I don't know their family background. I don't know their situation. I'm being judgmental, but I do think at certain age onwards, for something like I think I don't know. I think every child should understand this very clearly, that military is, you join it to either kill people or to be killed. So that seems to be the basic function of war. So if you don't get that, yeah.
Okay, so I think that's all we got, right? Or did you have anything else that you want to talk about? You
No,
had
just
Ben Burgess thing you told me that you watched with Glenn Greenwald. What was that
yeah,
about?
just wanted to suggest Ben Burgess goes on Glenn Greenwald, talk about his book. Not bad, a very
Give them a
chillax
reason.
Sunday. Yeah, they have a good back and forth. There is also Norman Finkelstein goes on Useful Idiots again. I think it's his second appearance. I mentioned in a previous video, I think Trita Parsi goes on Breaking Point. So, as always, very interesting stuff all around.
Okay, great stuff. I guess that brings this episode of the Progressive World to an end. So people, please be looking forward to reading again your criticisms and your comments and your questions, everything in the comment section below. And as you've seen in other videos, we make sure to get to most of them. So yeah, please comment below. Go ahead.
Just, yeah, my work, I that's why suddenly because of my work, sometimes I answer every comment and then I disappear for a while. So
sometimes I go and answer to the same comments as well. But anyway, please like and subscribe if you like this video, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you for watching.